That someone there I've already identified in my vanity and sickness, identified him or her as being competent, being tough, being intelligent, as being someone who's able to walk right into that situation and come out okay. Even if I have to fight, if I have to cry, no matter what I do, the main thing for me to try to do in my delusion is to have a fearful, if necessary, person there, and it will always be a fearful person there. If I have to have any thought at all about how I'm going to meet you after fighting with you, if I have to plan, if I have to look out of my corner eye to see how you're going to handle it so I can adjust to, if you're going to cry, then I'll apologize. You know, keep my ego in place. Depends on how you handle it too. That's why I'm going to keep my eye on you. The important thing is that I remain afraid in order to protect myself from being afraid. Right? Understand? Are we mixed up or not? Right. Cover for a minute the idea of secondary causes of fear. You know the primary one. You wrote it down. The pounding persistence of the I thought. Kind of remember this classification. It'll help you think clearer, and we want to think clearer toward this subject of tension, fear, apprehension. The secondary causes are simply the crisis that comes up out there, or the crisis that comes out in here. Someone mentioned the fear of aging, of growing old. Where is that crisis? The secondary cause is seeing that 90-year-old man or woman out there just barely making it down the street, and me looking at it. And then the primary cause goes into action. The secondary cause, the first initial one, which is secondary, which set me off, was my own anxiety over the fact that I'm going to someday be like that person if I should live that long. Then the primary cause of fear comes into action, that someday I won't be 30 years old. Someday I won't even be 70 years old if I should live even that long. So the primary cause comes in, the pounding persistence of the I thought. Why should you be young? Oh, because you get more pleasure out of it. You're more sexually active when you're young. You can make a lot of money when you're young. You have identified yourself as being young, now you're afraid of the opposite, right? Now remember that characteristic also of fear, that we always fear the opposite of what we've identified with in our own thoughts. You track that down in some of the things you're afraid of, and you'll see that the whole thing is involved with you trying to be unafraid by clinging to a fearful position. The position where you think you're secure. I'm young, I've got it made. Then you see the 90-year-old man and now you're afraid. Or you have thoughts about how you should be. I am going to read the Bible, and I'm going to go to a self-improvement class, and as I study myself and get these principles, I'm going to become a nicer person. I'm going to be more courteous, I'm more patient, I'm going to be more loving with people. As I was taught, you should like people and be nice to them. It's not nice to hurt people. And so I have all these ideal images about what I'm going to be, and then quite unexplainably to myself, I just can't help but being grouchy, but being irritable, but blowing up, but thinking bad thoughts toward other people. And then I compare the way I behaved with the way I think I should be, and I'm afraid. I will tell you right now, you'll make a very sharp and right attack on fear if you'll never, ever, ever, ever think of how you should ever be in the future. Because that is one of the pounding, persistent thoughts that says, in due time, if I study long enough, then I'll change and I'll be okay. I'll feel happy inside. And then that inner happiness, of course, won't want to be unkind to anyone else, as I now am. This means, of course, that you refuse to give up your belief in yourself as your own savior. You can't save yourself. You never have. You have tried every angle you can think of. By going into thought, you're going to do this or do that. You're going to get religious, or you're going to get a new religion, or you're going to give up all religion, or you're going to put on an act, and at least that's better than nothing, to have people think that you're nice. Go back to a very important point, which you should think of long and hard, which is, because we know that every thought we have will rise and go away, we're also afraid that all these thoughts about ourselves, these ideals, all these aims, all these convictions that we have, we're very much afraid that I will go away when the thought goes away. I'm going to be nicer next year. I keep that in my mind all the time. It's just a matter of time, because I'm in a good study group, and maybe even God himself will help me. You don't know what you're talking about when you say God, but you throw that in. It sounds good. Sounds encouraging. And so you never do the one thing that is necessary for you to come, first of all, face to face with the fact that you're afraid, which would help you to understand it, which will eventually put an end to it. And let me tell you right now, if you're lying about your fears, which you are, that is hiding them, pushing them down, refusing to see them, that is a form of lying about them. If you think you've got it made, if you're smug because you've identified with your money or your youth or whatever, that's a form of lying about your fear. And if you have too many of them, this class won't be of any interest to you at all, because this class must have the aim of being completely honest with ourselves and see how mixed up, how scared we are, how we don't want to face those terrible habits that we have. We don't want to examine them, because we do indeed sense that a close examination of them would cause us to do something we don't want to do, which is to go to work to put an end to them through understanding. Just look at everything you have done up to this point in your life and an attempt to get over being afraid. Do that first of all, and you'll see that nothing you've ever tried has put an end to it. You're still afraid. Why don't we really try something quite drastic, something that the forces opposing it are incredibly powerful. I use the word pounding persistence. You could say the powerful persistence of the I thought that doesn't want to give itself up. But by detecting, let me switch the thought a bit. Do you see how the devil enters into all of this? The devil being the I thought, the unconsciousness, our refusals to see what's going on inside of us. You're making a proper attack on the devil by bringing in the light that will expose him as the nothingness that he is, having no power over you at all, as long as you're willing to be no one at all except the light, except to be the light that your real nature is. How can light be afraid of darkness? It has nothing to do with darkness. It doesn't know darkness. All our labels prefer the darkness because they don't want to give themselves up. So we're going to have to do much better than to do surface work in getting over fears, like distracting ourselves.